I saw Matt yesterday.
Do it for this.
Nope, you get started as soon as
Slide stream. Then we should let you share this. Can you switch to the next page? Switch to the next. That's this. So I just click forward. Yep.
Switch you on now?
Good afternoon. I apologize for how long that took us to get where we are right now. I'm Pam Walker-Smith, and forgive me because I am in training, so this will be actually my first presentation. So today we are doing a workshop on eProcurement. Our agenda will be what is eProcurement, our overview, how to access the iSupplier Portal on the eProcurement Microsite, how to register. I'm not sure, do we have any delegate agency vendors here today? No? Okay, we'll skip that. How to view bids and solicitations, how to respond to bid solicitations, and then after we'll take questions. Next page, please. Our overview. eProcurement is an enhancement to the city's procurement and financial systems that applies to our digital technology, to the acquisitions of goods and services. The portals for vendors is the iSupplier Portal. It will be full of full-service resources for vendors and those interested in doing business with the city of Chicago. We have completed some phases to process of most contract types with only 2 remaining. We expect the remaining 2 vehicles and heavy equipment and work services to be in production by summer of 2018. Next page. The City of Chicago has implemented the iSupplier Portal online eProcurement system for all purchasing activities. As a vendor registered in the iSupplier Portal, you will be able to view and respond to bids and solicitations online, view orders, payments, invoices, update your company information, contacts, address, phone, and email, and to assist vendors with transition to online bidding, the city has developed an eProcurement Microsite that includes information about our entire eProcurement process. For our first-time vendors, login and registration consists of existing vendors. If you already have a contract and or a vendor number with the city, then you need to request an iSupplier invitation. For new vendors that are not currently contracting with the city of Chicago and do not have a vendor number with the city of Chicago, you must send us an email inquiring for a new registration. We'll go through that as well. What is a requirement must be attached and or referenced in your email is the vendor's FEIN number and a copy of your W-9. That is required. Our microsite is www.cityofchicago.org/eProcurement. Your information is secure. The city takes security seriously and ensures all information is encrypted. The city uses the HTTPS:/protocol for secure communication. We use the same security that is used for banking logons. Bids are not visible to employees or other vendors prior to bid opening. Your bid is secure. This is the first page, the landing page of our microsite, the iSupplier Portal. On this portal, its first page is just chock full of information, but this page is referring to documentation items belonging to the delegate agency. Next page. Here, where it says login and registration, that's your button here on the ribbon, on this ribbon. anything that you need to know about the iSupplier portal is on this ribbon. Okay? So I would suggest that you bookmark it. Bookmark this page right here. So login and registration, there's a login and then there's register. Login refers to vendors who have been sent an invitation via DPS because you sent an email requesting an invitation, and in that email, the vendors list their vendor number, their vendor name. The support staff, SAS, looks up that vendor number and that vendor name, and they send an email to the contact email address. Based on the email that was received, if there's currently a vendor number and a vendor contact name with that email, the support staff will send an email to the vendor with the invite. That vendor will then receive an email from what is known as workflow mailer, and workflow mailer will in the email have the username and a temporary password, and then the vendor can log in at that right there using their username, their temporary password, and they'll be prompted to change their password, and then they're in, and they'll be able to see the iSupplier portal in its entirety. Registering is different. Registering is when we get an email in the support staff, and the email says, I'm interested in being an iSupplier vendor. And they give us, we're currently not doing business with the city. We do not have a contract with the city. My company name is. So we'll look up the company name, and if they're not there, because fail-safe is to verify what the email respondent said. And so we verify, and then to that email address, we will send an invitation script to them on what to do to register, and it actually brings them right back to this page, because when you click on register, then you get a boatload of information that we're looking for, and when you respond to that inquiry, then you'll get the vendor will get an email from Workflow Mailer with their username and a temporary password, and then they're able to log in. Email comes back to the support staff. They view and verify all that information, approve it and or deny it. If it is approved, then that vendor will get a password, and then they can then go in and log in. So it's very advantageous, and not only is it advantageous, but it's a must that if you want to bid on any eProcurement contracts, you must be a registered vendor in iSupplier. Next. So our sister agencies are available, existing City of Chicago vendors. Below that are our sister agencies that are available to help vendors to log into the registration. Sometimes some people aren't computer savvy, so they don't know what to do, but they can be directed to any one of these sister agencies, and they then will request a supplier invitation for that vendor. Same thing for new vendor, could you go back? Same thing for new vendor registration. I went over that already. Same thing is that if you do not have, you may want to go back and tell your friends in the industry. If you haven't done business with the City of Chicago and you're interested in bidding on some of their upcoming projects pursuant to the project plan or the buying plan, or you look at our bid opening listing that's published every Monday, then you must register in iSupplier in order to look at that e-bid or even to bid it. You must be registered. New supplier registration. This is our abstract page, and that's what this page is as well, our abstract page. And on it, it shows upcoming bids, our upcoming bids. Now, what's different, and what was different for me in learning this process, is that the terminology has changed drastically. Drastically. So you're looking for a spec number, or if you're looking for an RFQ, its terminology is the solicitation number. That's the, prior we used to say, what's the spec number? It's the solicitation number. That's what the system is going to be looking for. But your spec number is right here. And if you notice, on the solicitation title, it's first by spec number and then by description. Here's your add date, your date of response, and the date that the supplier actually did respond. And then you have a deadline for questions. And so my deputy is telling me that when I'm done, I can let him take over because he implemented the process. So he would be best to speak to it. I'm best to work at it. Thank you.
Really, I'm sorry. Really,
Sure.
could you show us how did you get to that?
The abstract page?
Yes.
No, my deputy.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
We switched over. Yes. Okay. Welcome to the bidding portion of eProcurement. My name is Benjamin Ho, Deputy Procurement Officer, and we're going to walk you through the actual how to look through the bids and how to open them and actually go in and bid. Previously, you saw Pam walk us through how to register. But once you're registered, we get into the meat of the matter, which for most of you is bidding. We're also going to show you later how you can use iSupplier not only to bid, but also to look at, if you're an existing vendor, your invoices with the city. You can look at receipts. You can look at payments. So if you are an existing city contractor, iSupplier has many benefits for you in managing your relationship with the city and getting paid on time by the city departments. Because then you can see whether it's with the department or whether it's with the controller's office, and therefore know who to go contact if you have not been paid on time. But before we go there, we'll go through the bidding process. So what we showed you is the abstract page. The abstract page is essentially the bid opportunity list. You're used to seeing the bid opportunity list on the city's website. That will continue for all non-eProcurement bids. While we're in the transition, you will see both types of bids. You will have paper bids, which will actually PDF bids, which will continue to be on the website as you know it. The eProcurement bids will be available from the microsite and also linked from the bid opportunity list. When you click on it, you will see this page here. And then Pam started to walk you through some of the fields here. So department name tells you what the user department is for that particular bid. Event tells you what contract type it is. So event will tell you whether it's commodities, whether it's construction, services, professional services. It may also be a delegate agency bid. So you will tell that from event. Program model is not used by DPS. That's a delegate field if you are, whoops. Okay. Program now can be ignored. Solicitation number. As Pam mentioned, this is the Oracle assigned number for the solicitation that is in addition to the spec number. You're used to dealing with spec numbers, and again, like Pam mentioned, spec number is still there. You see the next column is spec number. You also see solicitation title. Now, in many parts of eProcurement, you may not be able to necessarily access the spec number, so you always look at the first part of the title. If you notice, it will say the spec number with a colon, and then the name of the solicitation. So if in doubt, where to find the spec number, you can can always look at the title, and the first number is the spec number. The advertisement date is when the solicitation, of course, is first advertised. The supplier response due date will always be the same as the advertisement date, because as soon as we release it for advertisement, it's also ready for you to respond to. The supplier response due date is essentially the bid opening date, or the RFP due date. So with that, you should be aware that the system will cut off responses 1 second after the date, that date and time is reached. So if you're used to coming into the bid and bond room and dropping something off and please, 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 would you accept this late bid? I'm sorry. The system has taken away all discretion, so you do need to be aware to respond to your bids on time. We highly, highly recommend not waiting to the morning that bid opening to respond. Please, please, please. We have had vendors try to come in 5 minutes before, and then they run into technical difficulties. You don't want to be one of those vendors. So protected market. So if this is a target market bid, it will be indicated there. Or one of these small business or medium-sized businesses, those kinds of bids will be indicated under protected markets. Deadline for questions. So if there is a pre-bid conference and there is a deadline for questions that need to be asked at that time or post pre-bid, it will be indicated here. Would you mind clicking on that little eyeglasses on the details? Okay, so now the details gives you more details about this particular bid. So you will see some of the information repeated here, the advertisement dates. Let's scroll down so that we can see information about the pre-bid. So the details about the pre-bid are here. All the eProcurement pre-bids are strongly suggested attendance, which means we really, if you have already attended one to learn about eProcurement, most of them you would still want to go to if you have questions about the spec, but they will address two things: the questions about the spec and as well as training for eProcurement, and we'll be doing that until the majority of vendors are comfortable with the eProcurement bidding process. There's the date and time, the location, and also the deadline for questions again. Now, let's scroll up and look at the part that says document. At the top where it says document, and there's a link under PDF file. So this is how you view the solicitation to see whether you are interested in it. You also pick up a copy of it here. So this replaces downloading from the website, because now this becomes the website download link. So let's go ahead and click that. And it will take a while, particularly if it's a construction bid. Some of them could be 100 megs because the entire books 1, 2, and 3 will be out there to download. With some of the others, commodities and small orders, RFPs and RFQs should be smaller. But the system does take its sweet old time. So when you download, this is the standard format for eProcurement bids. Whoops. So you start, and you see at the top, it has the solicitation number. Then it has city seal. It'll say commodity solicitation, what kind of contract type it is. Then it'll have the number, and it'll say that it's a bid. It might say that it's an RFQ or RFP. Then it'll have the title of the solicitation, the spec number, the department, and then it will also have the bid and proposal submittal time and date. That is your due date. Now it's back on. Yes, it went off.
She just wanted you to adjust it. She said.
But the button went off.
Huh?
The button was off. change our battery in the microphone. All right, we're back in business. It has the deadline for questions. It has the name of the buyer. The email address should be populated in this test instance. It's not, but you will have an email and phone number contact for the procurement specialists. The pre-solicitation date and time and location are there. If there are any site visits, that will be noted here as well. All responses need to go through eProcurement. And notice, scroll down, please. It says iSupplier vendor portal registration is required, which Pam just talked about earlier. And we need to make sure you allow 3 business days to complete your registration. So I believe if you've already been registered, you're good to go. If you are not, please register before you attempt to bid. Now let's go through this document. Then at the bottom, you see that's been issued by our Chief Procurement Officer and the Mayor. Let's keep going. Table of contents is system generated. You can kind of ignore that. It will tell you that it has 20 lines. 28 lines, I should say. And okay, then we get down to this part that's called header information. The header information gives you information about the solicitation, including the title, date. This is mostly information that comes from FMPS, our financial system. It's not terribly useful because these, as you know, the shipping terms will be determined by our general terms and conditions and not this sort of general information by the system. Keep going, please. Okay, now we get down to requirements. This is something you need to pay attention to. So this will tell you whether business preferences, local manufacturer preferences, various bid incentives are applicable to this bid. So it says type no response required. All that means is that this is the system is telling you this information and you don't have to type anything in. You will not be responding in anything that looks like this. This is just a paper representation of the online bid. When we go in, you're going to see what it looks like actually online. This tells you funding sources. It's non-federal, so this one has no federal funding. If it said federal, obviously federal terms and conditions would apply. This is for aviation. Let's keep going. Oh yes, the contract-specific goals, very important for MWBE. In this case, it's 0%, so this one would be no stated goals. And then any bidder questions here that are required must be typed in. Here, for example, you have the EDS number. When you file your EDS certificate, you will need to upload the certificate into the system and also enter the number into the field here. And then, let's see, the rest of it is a checklist. You will see that there are many documents that will be required to be uploaded as well as just filling in the bid prices. So the attachments need to be provided lest you become non-responsive. So it's very important to make sure you don't miss required documents. And the required documents are listed, would you scroll back up, please, in that checklist. So you will see MWBE documents, bid, alternative powered vehicles affidavit, et cetera, et cetera. All these are just for your convenience, that you are not missing any documents that would make you non-responsive. And then the attachments here are a list of all the documents that are appended to the solicitation. So you will see that here you have a bid execution page, you have the detailed spec, keep going, you have the MWBE special conditions, blah, 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 blah. This is a whole long listing here. Keep going. Then the meat of your bid here is, these are essentially the proposal pages here. You will have the description of the line. You have the quantity, which is specified by the city. You will specify the unit price, and then the system will calculate the extended price and the grand total. However, one thing you should be aware of is that, and you'll see this when we demo it for you, is that the system does not keep a running total, real-time total as you enter your prices. You have to wait till all lines have been entered before you see the grand total, the bid total entered for or calculated by the system for you. But it will calculate that for you automatically, so you cannot enter it. One thing to also be in mind, let's keep going after these lines. In the case of construction bids where you have award criteria, this one is commodity, so there's no award criteria. In the case of award criteria, the system will not do the calculations for award criteria for you. Those will be entered in that requirements section I told you earlier. You do have to do your calculations manually. The procurement specialist will be checking your math there. And so this is one, award criteria is not standard functionality within the Oracle system, so it has to be handled a little bit outside the normal process where the system does all the calculations for you. All right. So line details, these are, will give you commodity codes and things for the lines. It's not terribly interesting to see them here. Keep going. Then we come to the standard terms and conditions that you're used to seeing. And then we can go through the other attachments, but we won't spend a lot of time that here. Now we're going to go and actually go in and log in and do we'll log in as a vendor, and let's see, if we go back to abstracts, and we're going to go log in, and then I'll take over from the driving. I'll talk from here. Thank you, Tish. Any questions so far? All right, so we will log in. And we have, one thing to note is that you want to note the spec, that number was 6241. You want to write that number down that you're interested in before you go in and bid. Unfortunately, the system doesn't make that a link where you can just click it and then it'll take you to that particular solicitation. You do need to remember the number. So we are going to go in as a test vendor. And then you'll see a page which is the Oracle Applications home page. And on the left-hand side, you will see that there are two links here. There is the City of Chicago iSupplier portal with invoice creation, and also City of Chicago online bidding. For the purposes of today, we're going to go into City of Chicago online bidding. Click on that, and then you'll see an additional link called sourcing. Then you go ahead and click on Sourcing, and then Sourcing Homepage. And then the system will take you to a screen called Negotiations. This screen shows you various solicitations that you have started to respond to. It does not show you that full lists that you had before. So in order to find what you're looking for, you want to go up to the Search Open Solicitations, and you scroll down, you pick number from the drop-down. And then you put that number in the 6241 that we looked at before, and we hit Go. So what this does is it brings us up to the search results, and notice we see the solicitation that we wanted, which is the automatic external defibrillators. And you see that the number is 6241, and it tells you the number, the time left till the bid opening date, and that all responses are sealed, that you have done, you have not submitted any response. So in order to respond, you have to click the little radio button and then go ahead and click Respond. And then the system will bring you to Terms and Conditions. So this is the acknowledgement that will put you on the takeout list. If you do not come here, the system has no way of knowing, and DPS has no way of knowing that you're interested in receiving addendums from the system. So if you come in here and make it this far, you read this, and you scroll down and see this is a checkbox that says, I have read and accepted the terms and conditions. When you click Accept, you will be put on the takeout list, and this indicates your interest in responding to the bid. You should do this right away, even though you don't respond to it. Otherwise, you will not receive emails, notifications of addenda. You are obligated to check the system, regardless of whether you get this email or not. You should periodically check to see if there are addenda. Of course, you can also do it the old school way and look in the Sun-Times, but the system will notify you of addenda, provided that you go ahead and click Accept. If you are a subcontractor and are interested in receiving addenda, you do need to still send your interest to the bid and bond room the old-fashioned way by sending your business card information to the City of Chicago bid and bond room. And then they will manually put you on the takeout list to receive notification of addenda. So once you have acknowledged that disclaimer that we saw, we come to the Create Quote page. And this is where we will see information about the bid that you will be responding to. So there's two sections here. You see there's header, and then there's lines. And then you want to make sure it's the correct one with the title. And again, it gives you the information about the time left and the bid opening date. So let's look at the header. So attachments, here is where you will upload everything that you need to in order to respond to the bid. Here is where we saw earlier in that PDF those requirements. Notice here it doesn't say type no response required or something like that. It just says city business preference, yes, etc. So this is all the information the system is giving you. If it requires a response to you, from you, you will have a box here and where you can type in your information. So here, for example, if you're taking any exceptions to provisions or specifications, you would need to type those into this box here. That may or may not render you non-responsive, but if you have them, you should type them in there. the EDS number that we talked about earlier would be typed in here. And then all those various checklist items are down here. And if you, as you upload them, you can click yes to indicate that I have entered this in. Now the system does not actually cross-check between what you type here and the attachment. So if you check yes here, make sure you actually have uploaded the document. And then, if you want to then go to the lines, and the bid lines is where you would enter your pricing. So if we enter pricing here, the system will, let's see, it tells you the quantity, and then you have to enter the price for each of these quantities. Notice the unit of measure is put right next to this, so we will just enter, so you can see. I'm not going to get into that today. Now, we are moving towards allowing bidders to use spreadsheets for, particularly in bids where there are huge numbers of lines. For example, if you have 400 lines, 800 lines, you can submit a spreadsheet that will be uploaded instead of typing this in. But for small bids like this one, it's faster just to type them in. Notice it does not give you the totals as I'm typing them in. It will do that at the very end. Whoops.
Now, do you have to add the decimal after the 10, so it's not 10 cents or $10?
No, it assumes that it's $10 unless you put the decimal. So if you put in 0.70, then it's 70 cents. But then it changed. Notice it takes off the zero. So you can put it goes to whatever decimal places that you want. So you get the idea. We won't go through the whole thing here, but you would put in the pricing under lines. At any time, you can hit Save Draft, and we highly encourage you to do that at any time because the system may run into network difficulties or disconnect you in some way, and your work will be lost unless you hit Save Draft. So it is important to save early and often. Now, when you're done with your pricing, let's go back to some of the rules about attachments. So some of the attachments that you will see in the PDF need to be extracted out, filled out, and then re-uploaded. When you re-upload, then you would give it a title. So let's say you're uploading an insurance certificate. Then you make a descriptive title. And then you will, by default, it says File. Then you will click Browse, find the file on your computer, and then upload it. We prefer that things are uploaded in PDF. Most of them would be PDF documents that you're filling in, and then you might have to scan them, because some documents do require, actually they still require that some are signed or they're notarized, and obviously the only way you can do that is you take the original document and then you scan it. But in our system, when we do not want you to follow up with mailing us any originals. We will consider your upload the original for our purposes of being the record in the system. Scans and attachments do need to be a maximum of 200 megs each. If anything is bigger, you should spread it out and break them up into smaller attachments. While there is no limit to the number of attachments that you can upload to the system. So if you have a whole, let's say you have 500 megs of attachments, you can upload them all separately, and then even though you exceed 200 in the aggregate, you'll be fine. So you would keep adding your attachments till you're finished, and then,
I have a question.
yes,
Can you add attachments after the bid has closed?
no. Okay.
So if I didn't include my insurance certificate at the time when I placed my bid, do I lose my opportunity to submit my insurance certificate?
No. So what happens, the question is, can you submit attachments after the bid is closed? And the answer is no. However, in that case, if you're missing something which is curable, the procurement specialist will reach out to you and give you the opportunity to cure. So those could be responded to in a number of ways. You can actually use the system's what's called online messaging to submit them, or you can use regular email. Either way, those can be cured if cure is allowable. Of course, keep in mind that not every missing document is curable. So, any other questions on that? All right. So, when you are completed with the upload of documents and the pricing, it will give you the grand total. It should match your calculations. If they do not submit it yet. Check the math, check the typing, because something is obviously off. And then when you submit, since I'm not going to actually submit this one, I'd like to see if we can switch back to our PowerPoint, and then I'll show you the page where you sign the document electronically.
Does a vendor have to have an EDS number in order to submit a bid?
There was a question, does the vendor have to have an EDS number in order to submit? Yes, an EDS is required in order to submit, so you must complete that before the bid opening date. Okay, so now we get to the electronic signature. Once upon completion, you're going to see a screen that will pop up when you get ready to submit, and it will have this language that's circled in the red here, and it states that by submitting a bid, a proposal, application, and inputting his or her name and title, the person signing below certifies that he or she is authorized to submit this bid and proposal or application on behalf of the submitting party, and warrants that all certifications and statements contained are true, accurate, and complete as of the date furnished to the city. The person signing below understands that the submission will be binding on the submitting party. So you electronically sign this by typing your name and your title, and then you can click submit. Notice it's grayed out until you type this in, and then there's also a checkbox, which I don't think you see here, but once you do that, then you're submitting and signing electronically. Now, bear in mind, there is a nice new feature of the eProcurement system where if you realize you made a mistake, or you left out an attachment, or you have typed in a wrong price, you can update your bid at any time prior to bid opening. What that does is it replaces the bid that was already there, and so that's essentially all thrown out, and your updated version is kept in the system. So you can do that multiple times before bid opening. However, right at bid opening, it cuts right off, so do not try this a minute or two before bid opening. If it does, what will happen is that your attempt is unsuccessful, it keeps the last one that you have in the system as your final bid. So you can change it, just don't do it too close. So that should this, I believe, concludes the bidding portion. Let's go to the next slide.
Do you have any questions about any of that so far?
No, let's keep going. The rest of the slides will be on iSupplier. So
Sir, did we answer the question?
earlier,
Yeah. It just seems like you have to have almost two separate windows open, I guess, when you do this, because you can't. When I log into the iSupplier portion, I can't find those bids. Does that make sense?
iSupplier Portal is not where you'll find the bid. You'll find the bid in sourcing.
Right, and then
Second one.
okay, and then from there, that's where you put the spec number in, and then you can respond to the bid.
actually, so the sourcing window, notice when I said there was a listing of bids there, it isn't the whole listing that you saw earlier. So there, you are kind of right in the sense that when you go to sourcing, there is no list of all bids in sourcing. You have to look at what you want in what I showed you is this abstract page. And that one, you go from the eProcurement microsite, or you can go from where you go now, which is the bid opportunity lists in the city website. Either place will take you to this place. This is the master list of all eProcurement bids. So unfortunately, this list is not also available in the sourcing homepage that you're responding to. So they are, in a sense, you are kind of right that there are two places you have to go. One, to find out what the bid number is that you're interested in, and then one to actually bid and respond if you're interested.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
that does. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just some quick information about the other features of iSupplier. So assuming that you have won a contract, then your contractual information will become available within iSupplier once departments start placing orders. In the meanwhile, this information here was for delegate agencies. So can we skip to the next one? Okay, delegates, let's skip that. Okay, so I told you earlier that iSupplier has the ability for you to see your invoices, your current contracts, any releases on those contracts, your receipts, so you can manage much of your relationship with the city in here. We don't really have, in the test system, a lot of contracts that we can show you on that, and we are running out of time, so I direct you to our online training materials, which is also available at the iSupplier portal. At the top, when you go up this ribbon, it's close to the end. You will see online training materials. There are a plethora of videos and PDFs that address all the various aspects of iSupplier. You will see registration and profile updates. You will see information about solicitation and bid opportunities, how to find that information. You will see supplier responses and submissions on how to bid. And then if this is delegate agency, there's delegate agency materials down here. So that information is available to assist you in the bidding process to provide you more information than what I was able to give you today. Let's go to the next slide, please. So if you run into any problems, there's various folks that you can call for assistance. There is a help button on the iSupplier microsite. And then if you have questions on registration, you can email eProc support, and that is also on the microsite. If you're a delegate agency, we'll skip that. Training materials I talked about, and the delegate agency registration we talked about. Let's go to the next slide. And We have, DPS is available on social media. We do have a Facebook and YouTube channels and a Twitter account. So if you are interested in following up on announcements for upcoming solicitations, you can utilize any of these in addition to our bid opportunity lists. Next slide. And so I believe this brings us to the end of our presentation. Are we having any questions? If not, thank you for attending, and we look forward to working with you on eProcurement.